Inside this video topic, we'll discuss and see the concept to create MySQL stored procedures inside a database. So to create a MySQL stored procedure, we have to use create procedure or MySQL command. So what is the process and how to create a stored procedure inside database? All these concepts we'll discuss inside this video topic. Let's go back to editor. So inside last video, we have seen the concept of MySQL delimiters. So MySQL delimiters simply means that if we want to execute a group of MySQL commands, a group of declarative statements, so in that case we have to use the concept of delimiters. So here, if we go again back to the same syntax, so we can see that delimiter, here we have a delimiter symbol. Either we can use this syntax, this syntax, this syntax. So what basically we pass here, the same syntax we have to return like after this AND block. So here delimiter syntax. Now here we have create procedure or MySQL command. So create procedure, then we have to pass the store procedure name, then we have to go and define the begin and end body block. So inside this begin and end keyword, we have to pass the logical concept or the stored procedure, the body concept. And finally, this is complete a single command that we have to execute on single execution. So that's why delimiter and semicolon. Now in this video we'll discuss the concept that how to create a MySQL stored procedure using create procedure or MySQL command. Next, after this, what we have to do. So first thing first, as we know that inside our database we don't have any tables. So first thing first, we have to create some table so that on the basis of those tables we can learn the concept of stored procedures. So what I will do, let's go back to browser, go inside that database called test_db, and here I'll use phpMyAdmin, the manual interface, to create a table schema. So here we can see database, click on its structure, and here we have create new table. So simply I will pass the table name, for example users, number of columns, let's say equals to 4, click on create button. Now here we have a new interface where we have to provide the informations of column, their data type and their default values. So here let's say that ID, name, email, and let's say phone number. So these are the columns what I need inside users table. Now here let's say type of this column is equals to int, it is okay. For name value it is going to contain the string value, so varchar, let's say 80 characters will be in length. Email value varchar, let's say 80 characters in length. Phone number, let's say varchar, and here let's say 30 characters in length. And the default value, so let's say that default value, I want that this column is going to contain the null value, so null here and null here. So after passing all these details, and one more thing, I want that this id column should be primary key. So here inside this structure we can see auto increment, click on this checkbox. We want that this column should be a primary key. So here inside this index dropdown, primary will be selected. So once we do this table schema, click on save button. Now successfully our first table now created inside our database called users. So now next what we can do, let's click on this insert tab so that I will insert some dummy data here. So ID will be auto incremented now here. So this is first user, dummy email value, example.com. I will copy this email pattern, phone number, something, a dummy value, click on go button. So successfully inside our users table, now first row now created. Again click on this insert tab. Let's go here, pass our second user, something, a dummy phone number, click on go button, insert it. Again I will go and click on this insert tab, and here let's say this will be our third user, phone number. Now successfully inside this table, now we have three dummy rows. Next, after this, what I will do, I'll create a stored procedure inside this test underscore DB database so that once we execute that stored procedure, first thing first, I want to list all those data what we have inside this users table. So what we can do, let's click on the SQL tab, and one more thing, as I told that we can create our stored procedure at database label. So inside this table, we can see that we don't have any options of routine. Let's click on database. And now we can see that our routines tab. So simply once we go at the database label, click on this routines tab. So as I told that we have three methods to create a stored procedure by using manual interface tool, that is by the help of this click button and this model input fields, and second we'll have the option by using create procedure MySQL command, and lastly also we'll discuss that how to use MySQL, our command line interface tool, to create a stored procedure. So in this video, I'll discuss by using create procedure or MySQL command to create a MySQL stored procedure. So what we can do, let's go inside our database, close this model, click on the SQL tab, and here, let's say delimiter. So after delimiter, I will use a pattern, let's say double ampersand. Now next, I will use our create procedure command to create our first stored procedure inside this database. So here, create command. Then here we have the processor command. Then we have to pass the stored processor name. So right now, what we want to select all those users what we have created inside users table. So simply, I'll put the name, let's say, get all users from users table. And here, let's put the begin, which is the starting of this stored procedure, and finally here we have the end keyword. It means that inside this begin and end block we have to define the logical concept of this stored procedure. So here we have used this delimiter pattern, so simply copy and put after this AND keyword. Now as we know that this is a complete command, means this is a single command in terms of MySQL, we want to execute on single execution. So at last what we have to do, delimiter and semicolon. So once we put this semicolon, so MySQL automatically gets informed that this is a complete command, this is a single command what we have to execute and put inside stored procedure. So here, now as we know that we have to select all those data inside users table, so for the time being, I'll use only a single command, single declarative statement, that is select all from the table name called users. Now this is the complete skeleton of our first MySQL stored procedure. So once we type all these things, let's go here, click on this go button, and now we can see that our stored procedure is successfully created inside this database. So once we create it, let's go inside this routines tab. And now we can see that inside this list, now here we have our first stored procedure, that is get all users from users table. And inside this list, look at here, we have execute button. So once we click on this button behind the scene, it will call using call statement. So after call the stored procedure name, so it will execute the call statement, and by the help of call statement it will call this stored procedure to get all those data what we have inside users table. So either we can click on this execute button, let's click on it, and now we can see that behind the scene it has used call statement, call command, and here we have our stored procedure name. So once we execute, or once it has executed this command, now we can see that here we have the complete users list what we have inside our users table. So this is what we had executed after click on this execute button. But in case if we want to execute our own, so simply let's go and open a duplicate tab, click on this SQL tab. So here, call get all users the stored procedure name. So I will copy, this is the stored procedure name what we have created. So call and the name of that. Simply put a semicolon, click on this go button, and now we can see that successfully we have selected all those data. So this is that how to create a first MySQL stored procedure inside a MySQL database. So this time we followed the structure that by using create procedure or MySQL command, how to create the simplest MySQL stored procedure. Next, after this, let's create one more stored procedure inside our users table so that once we call that stored procedure, it only lists the phone numbers what we have listed inside our database table. Let's go back to browser, go inside our database. Let's open this SQL tab into a new tab here. Now what we can do, simply delimiter. This time I will use double dollar. Then here let's say create command, processor command. Let's say get all users phone number, and here let's say begin, and we have used double dollar, so let's close here delimiter and semicolon. Let's go inside this begin and end block. So here I want to select only the phone number. So if I go inside our database table, let's click here, go inside users table. So we can see that here we have the column, the name is phone underscore no. So here let's say select all from table name called users. So this time instead of selecting all columns, we want only the phone number. So once we do all these things, let's go and click on this go button. So successfully, now here we have created our second stored procedure. So let's go inside of this database. And here, if I click on this routines tab, now we can see that get all users phone number. So whenever if I click on this execute button, so successfully we can see that all those phone numbers what we have inside users table. Now here we have the clear concept, clear idea that how to use MySQL create procedure command to create stored procedures inside database. So this was with a very simplest body structure to create a stored procedure. But once we go step by step inside this course, once we see all those concepts video by video, so you will notice, you will get the concept that how to use variables, how to use parameters and much more things inside this interesting journey of MySQL stored procedure. So for this interesting course, interesting video, please give us a thumbs up to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Now let's meet to our next amazing video. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.